Do do do. Good evening, Club Cult. Welcome to Stream the Dreams Project. And thank you all oh so mucho for all of your support with Voice Care Costs so far. I appreciate it immensely and intensely, and thank you, thank you, thank you. We got a little quickie stream tonight. Dude's intake appointment is tomorrow. I'll pull us out of purgatory. But I'm excited for some SWTOR. Oh, my voice is not here tonight. I'm here, but my voice isn't. That's okay. It's so nice out today, it's worth it. Play. Play. Boya's watching him. It sketched me out when I first made it my background, but I'm so glad it's there now. He's staring down the world. How much has this background changed? I've been posting throwbacks daily of like the millions of pictures I've taken of Voya over the years on his Instagram. And I found the first day I played SWTOR, which was today, in 2019. 7 years ago. The background has changed quite a bit. It's still like the same logo, but it's changed quite a bit. Couldn't exactly remember. Look at us, level 26. Badoom! How are we only 26 on her and she gets played the most, but our secondary character is 21? Is it easier to level up as a Jedi versus a Sith? As per the usual, I apologize for the fan in the background. It needs to be on for Mr. Gunther, who is still laying on 2 soundproofing panels that I put down. Speak to Darth Sword. Where are we traveling? Aggressive negotiations. Your inventory is full? For why? Since when? Okay, what do I actually want? I don't have focus. This one requires focus. Get rid of that. Okay, we got a lot of rifles. All valor gained. Did we even gain valor as a Sith? Such a lower rating and we don't have the crystals for it. Fuck it. Pardon. Maybe we want to keep the Viro sword though. Probably benefit from selling these instead of just dropping them, but how to equip this? How do we do that? Enhancement can be used to upgrade your weapons and armor. It's probably like in a shop or something. This one we might want to keep. This one we probably want to keep. You lack the skill to use that item. Well, it's true for many things. I'll use that next time. What was the other one like that? Oh, we have multiples of that. 5 and 3. Let's do one of those. That way we can max out on time tonight. Get a rewards crate. Aggressive negotiations prototype case. Grants 4,000 ship requisition to each ship unlocked in Galactic Starfighter. Does that go to my ship? Or just any ship? Oh, can't combine the two. Can't fully max out. Speak to Darth Zord. Did we fly to him last night? When does she have a thing?
I think the honey smell is off my boots.
Uh-oh.
Should have kicked in more faces while it lasted.
I won't remember Jaguna fondly.
Yeah, but just think about the future. You and me against
She
the galaxy.
loves
It's gonna be
me.
fun. All blasters and girl talk.
Just learn how to follow orders.
You're not exactly intelligence material.
Oh, damn.
You want to tell me why not?
Not particularly.
Let's get going.
Bad start, Agent.
She disapproves. Well, she was snarky to me from the start. Don't care for whatever her opinions are. Does not factor in. We do need to fly. Travel. It's a cheap trip. Controlled by the Sith Empire. We'll be in good company. Swoosh. Swoosh. Should we not, like, be strapped into our chairs? Oh, that just opens the map again. Quelle surprise. You have arrived at your destination. I think we better have. Found the door in the first try this time. We're leveling up. The cartel market. Sounds intriguing. Look at them over there just having their little chats. They don't look very Sithy. They look like the Weasley twins. He looks Sithy. Fancy tables. And up or down we go. Up. Up, up, and away. Up, up, and away. I just remember being so lost in this game. Like, enjoying it, but being so lost and so confused. The first time I played it, here we are 7 years later, enjoying it fully. Makes me so happy. Alright, how do we get to where the there? Around and then we fly. Don't really want to be a part of that if I don't need to. Just like it insta spawn next to me. Awkward. Maybe when I get through all of the base missions, I'd like to do some of the silly little things in between. Can I go through that? No. I don't care to at the moment. There's stairs. Or a ramp. So what's the point of the blocky thing? Okay. Are we still on solid ground for this? I guess so. I'm so tired of this jacket that my character is wearing. We haven't got any new clothes in a while. Sad. I feel like she's running slower. Is it because we're in mud? Uh-oh. What did you get yourself into? Girl! It's literally the same tone I use with Pippi when she's eating rabbit poop in the yard. Girl! What are you getting yourself into now? Oh, girl. Looks like a giant man-bear bat. Not man-bear pig, man-bear bat. It's a very batty face. It kind of looks like... No, actually, it kind of looks like the Cyber Demon in Doom. Welcome, Cyrogenics. Happy Monday. He has Cyber Demon cousins. He has that look about him. I think it's the tusks. And like whatever his shoulder tusks are. That'd make it seem so. Good evening. Happy Valderina Day. Looking very learned. I felt too washed out with the green bikini and whatever level of red or blonde this is tonight. So I was like, okay, I need some contrast. Little jacket, check. Glasses, check. The force is once again in balance now. I'm not lost in the forest so far, so I better be goddamn learned tonight. Yeah, those good old shoulder tusks. I don't know what to... It looked like it was on his shoulder. I wasn't paying attention to his looks when he was alive. Viney cat. Viney cat. I hope the day has been kind to you. Viney cat. Vort Norman. I like his name. I'm not taking on his mission at the moment, but he looks like a Vort Norman. I don't know how to give any other context to that belief other than he looks like a Vort Norman. A Monday that isn't a real Monday is a good Monday? Oh, fuck yeah, it is. I'm hoping dearly that you got a little break from life today.
mutating rapidly.
Oh,
and
we're
I
back
believe the
here.
lightning
A
spider
local
could be
fauna are
infectious.
mutating
Why don't you
rapidly.
help me collect samples for further study?
Another time. I'm in the shower. I'm busy. I can't do that. I'm in the shower. Cannot accomplish. Ah! There's an up. Good shit. Spire consequences. That's so cheesy. Cheesy. Doop 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 sploot 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 doop 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 clunk 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 doop 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 clunk 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 sploot sploot doop doop doop. Having a little too much fun with motions. Where are you, traveler? Place. It says Delanex? I don't know. For some reason, from far away, I thought that said Serena, which is not a good sign of the times while having glasses on. There's not like a single S in there.
Enjoy your stay.
Phew. Why is it? That is such an awkward way to ride. That looks so uncomfortable. I feel like there's some kind of design flaw there that can be heavily corrected. We into big Sith City. Not Sin City, Sith City. Sure, I'm not the only one who hasn't answered a phone call and when confronted has said, sorry, I was in the shower. It's beautiful logic, really. It's always possible. It may not ever be true, but it's always possible. I like that logic. Schrodinger's shower. I am both in it and not in it. Shut up. When the phone rings. I think they tried to go for like an old-timey radio voice with him, but instead he just sounds really fucking annoying. Lord Crass. Are you Crass? Similar to the chopper bikes with the ape hangers. Yeah. I cannot imagine doing like a bike run or more than just a 30 to 40 minute ride with one of those. It looks so uncomfy. I still don't believe that the blue bike that was at the Franch is comfortable to ride. I think that was just a flex. I don't believe that would be comfortable to ride. There's nothing comfortable about doing this.
My lord.
I don't like
Nothing.
this name. You certainly haven't done a very good job of keeping your agent. Speaking of
Unless,
which,
like, I don't know, you're the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
she's chatting.
Perhaps. Nah said, hey, what's going on? Do we go with what's going on or Keeper? What's wrong? Let's double
Are
question.
you all right, sir?
I'm fine, Agent.
Double questions.
I'll...
Speak to me, not to him. He wouldn't be here if not for your lack of respect.
Oh, damn.
In our last conversation, you said something that irked me. I don't remember what. I thought about having
So I know how to thread.
really
I want to wear a different bikini tonight, and I'm sad.
I decided to punish Keith.
I know how to thread strings back into pants and hoodies, but does anyone have a better suggestion than a paper clip or a safety pin for putting a string back through a bikini, or am I just like shit out of luck on this one? Because I tried for a while and it did not work. I keep revisiting it thinking it'll just be fine. I don't know. Seen some handlebars that are over the head. Just imagining all the blood draining out of your arms. Oh my god, that would not be... Those have to be more for, like, show than anything. That cannot be sustainable. Oh wait, that's working a little bit now. Hold on, maybe I got this. While he's just sitting there in agony. It's okay. We're Dami Mommy Sith. He can suffer for me. Do you have any wire? Like jewelry making wire? Probably somewhere. I think I have some wire to like tie up plants that are falling, like to stakes. This might be working though. I must have been too frazzled about wanting to wear it, trying it earlier. Come on. Pull through. Pull through. We're almost there. I'm gonna finish this one and then take a break because this is arduous. And any semi-rigid wire works. That may be worth visiting in the future. I think I just opened the safety pin, which is not ideal. We have to look for wire for the second one. I have more man questions. I'm gonna test all of our mental abilities tonight. So the screw broke for one of my faucets. The cold side of the faucet in my bathroom. Damn it, it did open. Motherfucker! It's right at the end. We're right there with it. If I found... I know, like, I should replace the whole thing. But if I found a screw on its own that would fit through there, and I cut off the head so that it was, like, twisty on both sides, how would I cut off the head of a screw? I've only broken them accidentally before, and I think I've thrown away all my broken ones because I couldn't find one earlier. Would that theoretically actually work? Because it's just a screw that goes into the faucet attachment to the sink and then to the handle. Just the handle fell off of it. I think the screw ended up going down the sink, but I couldn't find it in the P-trap. God dang it. I'd crochet hook it through. No, we were so close. We were so close. This ungodly, like, small area of fabric. Science, bitch. Ow. I texted my plumber and he said I should just replace it. I don't want to do that. No. I'm trying to grab the actual strap, not just the safety pin. Can use any screw as long as the threading is the same. I found one that the threading fits in both sides, but it has the head of the screw on it. How do you cut those off? Is that like just a handsaw? Or is there like a bolt cutter tool? Would that be like the best for that? You just wire it through and then make a loop at the end to pull the string back. Oh, that's such a better idea than what I'm doing. Right now I just have a safety pin coming through. Can I reattach you internally? Feels like it. Nope. Okay, I give up on you again. You're gonna be a long-term project. A handsaw would work. There's specific blades for cutting metal. Would just even though it would take longer, would just any handsaw work? I don't think I have one for metal, but I have a bunch for wood. I don't know how sharp they are. They're in my grandpa's garage for 1,000 years. Some of them are really pretty, like the handles are carved into. But they're not decorative, they're usable. Punish him how?
What do you plan to do to him?
I don't know. I'm starting to get bored. Keeper, you can go.
She's out Dami mommying me.
I appreciate that, my lord.
The teeth are too big for metal with a wood saw. Dang it!
It's getting dangerous.
I have solutions, but I do not have the way to solutionize the solutions. Pathetic old man. I don't know.
I'll pass on the message.
My mission is to be mean, no matter how awkward it is.
Was everything as I said?
I don't remember. He was
The
gone?
hideout, but Yanov had already fled.
You mean to say you failed me?
Oops.
I give you the chance of a lifetime. The chance
Oops.
to serve a member of the Dark
Oops.
Council. And you fail?
We'll figure it out.
And utterly?
The hot side still works.
Yanov knew my father's secrets. He was to lift me above my rivals.
I guess time to simp. I'm sorry, my lord. Wouldn't be lordess.
All I can do is...
Cutting the head off the screw, how would you thread it?
Sorry,
My theory is that I would
perhaps it
put
was
it
impossible
into...
to ask that I couldn't secure my father's secrets,
if,
and you couldn't. I shall stand
if this
in
is the
the
handle
council.
that has become detached,
Even
detached,
without James's wisdom.
I'm going to screw it into the hole in the handle and then put it over where it's still attached to the sink and then spin it around so that it just threads into both sides equally. If that even makes sense. Need to cut a slot into it so you could use it as a flat head. I would think I could make it flat enough just by cutting it. I think it would be okay. I feel like it'll work in my head. I just don't know if it'll actually work IRL.
I'm certain your father would be proud.
There we go.
My father met pride with scorn. All things, even his own works, were worth loathing. You disappointed me today, Cypher, but you also taught me something. Because of that, I forgive you. Do not fail ever again.
I'm disappointed in my grandpa, though. Oh, I have to find our way back to the ship, motherfucker. I have all of these random boxes of mismatch tools, parts, things that are from God knows what that he just kept over the years. And he almost always, up until now, has whatever I need to fix things. And not anymore. Not today. I went through all of the grandpa archives. I think I came from like far down here. Like the middle of the circle-y something. Attention Imperial personnel.
Patrol schedules at the Synth Sanctum are on hold until further notice. Again, approach the
Apago.
area at your own peril.
Sion. Where was my ship? To a private library. Is it like Bell's library? I want it. Do we perhaps come from like something like this? That doesn't seem right. I don't think so. Nope. That's a no-go zone. Whee! Attention Imperial personnel.
Patrol schedules at the Synth Sanctum are on hold until further notice. Again, approach the
This
area
way?
at your own peril.
Welcome, Magic. We're broadly still on the Sith side. I'm an Imperial agent. Wanted to be Boba Fett, obviously. That is precisely correct. Is the entrance speeder? It's green. Green means go. That's for a tutorial. Purchase the Zerka Patroller. Otherwise we have to find our ship. Where's my ship? We took a speeder here though. Sith Sanctum Taxi. Fuck it.
Enjoy your stay.
We're deviating from the course a little bit. That's okay. We can do that as a treat. Bless you. Bless your heart and soul. Mr. Gunthrow. Zeke looks so proper. Now that we can actually see him in his fancy chair. Super bright. Turn the lights up like all the way to see him. This may not be correct. Oh, Gunther Drinkies. I thought you were still laying over there. How do we see destinations for this on the map? Monolithic mistake. Spire consequences. Okay, those are just side pieces. I don't ever want to go to Lord Graytham's estate ever again. That one? Yellow arrow. Side quest. The boogie with the hoodie over on the chair over there. Handsome little boy. Got the drinkies. You have a huge booger in your nose. Okay. All better. Mom fix. Mom fix. Actually, speaking of cat, what are the gremlins doing? Phoebe knocked over her whole water bowl this morning and made a huge mess. It was much fun. But now she's just chilling and being very cute. She was all wet. All wet too. I felt bad. Like she spilled it everywhere. Aww. Dude's just laying out. He's such a cozy boy. He was looking at himself in the mirror earlier and licking the mirror. I don't know if he was excited about like, oh, this looks like another cat, or if there's something like tasty on the mirror, like I flucked toothpaste on there or something. I don't know. He's a weird one. PB still in shoe? Yes. She has, when I refilled her meds, she has a month of steroids to keep trying, which, super fun, exciting, sharing news, that of course everyone pops into stream to hear the PB poop report. We're pooping solid today. She is a solid pooping kitty cat. So we're going to stay the course of that, and once we are steady and stable and can taper down a little bit on the steroids and stay that way, number one, I want to get her spayed so that she'll be able to recover in her little area. That'll work out better than being in the full room. And then we'll do slow introductions with more and more time out and see how her body responds to all of that. Tinky and number 2 wise. I think he does think he's handsome. Gigi's laying out. There's another hoodie cat. Big fireworks though. I mean, like, bummer about spilling the water bowl everywhere, but yay for solid poops. Like, oh my god, I'm cleaning up actual poop in your litter box, not just piles. Like, wow. Okay, let's go. Where's Tank? Tank is obsessed with the idea of laying next to the bed I made him and not in it. He's the pile of mashed potatoes, and the bed is there. He's ridiculous. I think he does think he's handsome. Which, he is a very handsome boy. He's got to heal up and get all better. Little Spy? A bone breaker, you say? Looks like a giant bug beetle thing. It's like a termite triceratops. I was interested in the PB Poopy Butt report. I mean, it's fun news to hear, in my opinion, even though it's poop news. Because she's been crapping her pants since frickin' January. I feel so bad about that. Do I need to, like, go around here to get around there? That doesn't seem right. Innovators think outside the box. Tank is just using his brain. He's a very smart boy. Does make me wonder though, like, if it probably smells like me because I made it. So does he imagine that he's spooning with me while he's laying with it? I wonder. I wonder. Well, I wonder if our side quest now is where we get the little speeder that we see everyone else flying around in. Tank is now also sharing his squeezy treats with Zeke. Because Zeke just does not drink enough. I don't know. I'd prefer him to be a little bit more hydrated. So now Tank is sharing. Or we're trying anyway. Spider consequences. Oh, that's a wall. Dude's eye is leaking more today, but he has his intake appointment at the rescue tomorrow, so we have a shorter night tonight. Sploot, sploot, sploot. And I'm hoping they'll give him eye drops. I think probably the same eye drops I already have for Gunther, but I asked today if I should start giving them to him, and they're like, well, we'll just wait and see tomorrow. I think I'll be such a good boy for it, though. He's been such a good boy for everything. So sad. He had to have been owned at some point. I was sitting on the stool next to the counter with him earlier, like just doing sideways action. He was giving me biscuits. I didn't get a head rub today yet. Bummer. He was giving me some biscuits, some schnuzzles, some rubbins, and then he rolled over and my arm was just leaning on the table and he curled into it and like settled in for a nap. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm in here for a while. Tankers is so unwittingly magnanimous. He is. Tank maybe in the basement, but he's the man of the house. This one just ran up and kicked my companion. He just ran up and... like a 5-year-old. It's jealous that you have a toy that they want or something. That was hilarious. I don't think they're going to be carrying around any credits, but you never know. Spiked husk. No, thank you. Good boy, Gunther. Moments like this, too, make me think that Gunther's getting in touch with the dementia. Because he was just at the water bowl, drinking. And then he did his little digs to indicate that he was done. And then he walked away. And then he came back and then just did the same thing. Like, does he not remember that he just drank? Or maybe he was just more thirsty. I don't know. Around and around and around she goes. Where will she stop? Nobody knows except we'll be stopping at Mount Up. Tank is such a good big boy helper. Even though he's not a stream room boy yet, I feel like Tank is unofficially Club Cult mascot. He represents. Where do you want me to go? You?
What can I get for you?
What am I supposed to buy?
Come back anytime.
Purchase the Zerka Patroller.
Won't find a better bargain.
Zerka Patroller. Completed. Now we have a Zerka Patroller.
Come back anytime.
Tell me things? Did you just level me? Did I just spend all my money on leveling up pointlessly? I wonder how we trigger the speeder now. Ask for speeder. Mount Flourish. Control Z. No. Google. How to toggle speeder. Press P. May have to find the ability and put it in your action bar. If it's not in here, we're gonna have to look for that. Click on the Vehicles tab at the bottom of the window. I think they've changed it since. Ability is passive and cannot be activated. What? I don't know, Margot. Didn't make its way up in here, but we were making progress with P. Oh! You must reach level 10, which we have, and purchase speeder piloting from a trainer, before you can ride. But I like the daily tab. It's my emotional comfort daily tab. It's my emotional support daily tab. Sorry, it's triggering. I don't remember having a mount either, but I played it for like 2 whole days 1,000 years ago. The mission is complete. I'll take it. How do we get back to our ship? Whatever is purple. Spaceport speeder.
Ready for departure.
We came from the Sith Sanctum. Start back there.
Enjoy your stay.
It's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but it makes sense to me. It's really missing that mountain view with the login rewards on screen, huh? That's what road trips are for. IRL touching grass. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Every time I see medical droid, I read it as medic droid. I remember flying into here. Where did we fly in here from? Bananas. Check in with intelligence from your ship's holo terminal to resume your primary assignment. Where is my ship? I think he's just going to show me the same places that we just had for options.
Destination.
Phosphorus speeder. City expansion speeder. City central taxi. Mandalorian Enclave taxi. Intelligence headquarters taxi. Spaceport speeder. Spaceport? But that's where we just were. Or maybe we were there. Let's try that.
Enjoy your stay.
Yeah, spaceport is the magic word. We have learned this. I don't think that's wrong. It's possible. We shall see. You just fly higher. But no, my character is a show off. She wants to do her fancy moves. Fancy schmancy. Those perfect maneuvers. I'm the best flyer ever. All of the skill. All the skill. Infinite skill. This is foresty. This looks right. Heroic area. Sounds fancy. 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 It was 11:37 already. 1, it's past meds o'clock. Oops. 2, only streamed till like 12:15 at the latest. So we gotta be up for Mr. Dude. Not that that's gonna be out of the norm soonish, but I want to enjoy my time this week. Won't be streaming Friday again so that I can get a good amount of rest for going into the weekend. So I'm thinking maybe I'll switch Marbles' appointment to Friday. Otherwise, everything is too jumbled up this week. I want to be able to savor time, not just be flying around rushing everywhere. Where is my ship? Where is my super suit? Where am I? Which is the one I want? Ow. When Jeff Bridges shot Tron Legacy, he said he wanted to be portrayed like a Jedi. Star Wars and the dude connected at last. Aww! If Doodle was a Star Wars character, who would he be? I want his name to be officially like Leet Speak Dude. D00D. If I foster fail, which I'm gonna try really fucking hard not to. Trying. But you guys know if he ends up being FIV positive, I'm gonna motherfucking fall in love with him. Like, you're immunocompromised and need help. I'm your girl. But if I get to give him an official government name, ship! It's gonna be Dude. D00D. And him and Tank are just gonna have to share nicknames. Where am I going? Where am I going? Oh, there's fancy tables. Looks like poker tables or something. Ship. Bloop. I got a big ship. You guys like my big hard ship? It's solid. It's powerful. It's a force to be reckoned with. Maybe Dude is like a Lando character. You know what? I can see that. Like we'll step up to the plate as needed, but is otherwise a pretty easygoing kind of guy. I would see that. And he Landoed himself into a pretty good spot in life here in the zoo. You give him credit for that one.
Transmitting security codes. This is Watcher 2 to Cipher 9.
Oh, Swagger, likes the ladies, gassy.
After you dismantle the
He is a
cell
little
by
gassy.
Aurora and Nar Shaddaa, the rest of the Terra network went
He
into
finished his
overdrive.
dewormer tonight. Having trouble keeping up, computer?
I wouldn't mind a vacation.
No need for that yet, but I'll pass it on to Cooper. I told you before about the Eagles mystery.
He's
weapons
gassy,
eradicated.
sassy, a little
Still don't know what
badassy.
they are, but we intercepted this transmission.
But only
Once the devices are
the
fully
latter
functional,
two
I'll
visually.
target
He's a
encourage
sweetheart.
myself. Only then
Such a
will
nice cat.
instructions. But all cells are encouraged to prepare attacks on secondary targets. Once the Eradicators cause chaos in every Imperial stronghold, you must fan the flames. Stand tall above the wreckage. Shape the destruction into a message. That is how.
Fan the flames. Oops.
That was
I just
Eagle
hit the
himself.
microphone. My bad.
Seems the assassination
You awake, Club Colt?
was only the start.
Now we are. So little information.
Certainly intimidating. But what does that actually
Hate that
tell
coat.
us?
It's so ugly.
Very enough to add to his profile.
Don't want it.
We have leads on 2 new Terra cells, vital to the network's operation. They're your next targets. Proceed to Tatooine and Alderaan at your discretion. Your mission will continue there. Watcher 2 out.
Bloop. Travel to Alderaan. That's exciting. I think I'm going the wrong way. Do I know how to drive my ship? Fuck no. It is around the corner. It's not that hard to find. Oh. We have 2 big missions. We can go to Tatooine or Alderaan. And I'm going order of operations. The spy dance. Damn. It's expensive to go there. Controlled by contestant. 600 credits? Jesus. Need a sugar daddy for that one. Hey, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the cult. It is whatever you want it to be, baby. It was a choose your own adventure, and thank you for taking the time to be here tonight.
Stand by. I'm routing comm traffic through our mid-rim outposts. You're on a 6-second delay until I resynchronize the data stream. 3, 2, 1. Synced and secured. Tracking system.
Welcome, welcome. Hope you're having a lovely weekend so far. Oh wait, it's Monday. I hope your week is starting off marvelously. I keep feeling like it's Sunday. Because everyone's out doing little family things. Enough playing tour guide. Enough. His mannerisms with you remind me of Little Slug. Fingers crossed once he gets all fixed, he gets along with other cats. I hope so too.
They've feuded for centuries.
I'm really hoping he's not FIV positive. I'm really, really, really hoping he's not FELV positive.
Is financing the Eagles Terra network.
If he is FIV, then, you know, I haven't considered this in any way, shape, or form. It's not occupying my thoughts. If he did get adopted, that's a big if. I need to be more stable first. It's a big if. What am I, an auditor? Yeah, what am I, an auditor? Just give me the cats.
Isn't about credit trails.
Then he would have to be in with the boys, or if he was willing to be friends with Tank, if he's younger, maybe he's playful. We could find a way to work that out. If he's negative for everything, then that would be the best case scenario. I think he would get along phenomenally with the other cats. Probably drama with Slavka, but everyone has drama with Slavka. Except for Void. If he's FELV positive,
But I should explain.
I don't know what we'll do, because then he really can't interact with any other cats that aren't also FELV positive.
However, he continues to file activity reports, and we believe he's still loyal to the Empire, even if he's barely human anymore.
How's that possible?
Prolonged exposure to the clinics induces physiological changes. He shares thoughts, feelings with
I have a feeling he's going to be FIV positive based on the fact that he got beat up by another cat, but it's not, it's possible that it's not possible. It's just more likely. I really do think he's pretty young based on his teeth, though. Rendezvous with Victor Hylas. Victor Victrola. Oh, it's only telling me to go there because we can also go to Tatooine. I think. I didn't really listen to anything she said, honestly. Speak to Vector at the Ouroboros Killik Caverns in Kamos territory. Say that 5 times fast. I dare you. I'm anxious, but I'm looking forward to the rescue, looking at the solid tissue like between his ears and his eyes. And if they think that's just irritation from his wounds or if there's something else going on up there.
Alright, make me look good.
He has a little upper respiratory, but I think that bugs his eyes and nose the most. In my opinion, it's either a very, very bad abscess, which is likely because he's probably been getting beat up for years, or it's the C word, because usually things that aren't a big deal are more squishy. Where are our cat's sinuses? That's a good question. I know roughly where like ours are. Like it's a similar layout in their face. But that's a very good question. Because I mean, their face is like ours, but like smushed forward, you know? Where's a better picture here? We're learning tonight. Front sinus is, let's see, there's their mouth. Right in front of their ears. So, like, here, if I had a cat face... Here, I got this. This is how they should teach you in vet school. I have a clip in my hair. Alright, so let's see. Here... Here... And I don't know what this duct organ thing is, but I'm guessing that has something to do with it. The Eustachian tube and nasopharynx, I think, is what bothers Gunther, up towards his ears. So I would guess over here as well. So essentially, like, above eyes, surrounding the snout area, like, up to the eyes. Imagine, like, a triangle on a cat like this. And then a little bit towards their jaw area as well. So very similar to ours. Like this. And then this. If I'm understanding that diagram correctly. That's how you learn. Cass is his people. Especially Gunther, because he has a smush face. His little diagram layout would be more accurate than mine. Nasal pharyngeal meatus. Where is that? Heh. Other sinuses divide into long medial lying endoturbinates, usually 7. So whereas like we mostly just get irritated around here with sinuses, they have like 7 pathways around. But that's really cool. They also act as a heat exchange mechanism and remove inhaled foreign material. I would really appreciate a feature like that within my face. As someone whose sinuses are not always very happy at all. would appreciate some more room for movement in there. I just know that if abscesses are usually squishy, but if they go untreated long enough, it becomes like infected tissue and then they're hard. So it's very possible that it's that, but it also feels very similar to like how Marbles' face feels. But I refuse to panic until I know anything. But in that case, I would definitely have him here, and heaven forbid that is the case, knock on wood, hopefully it's not. He would then just become a Fospus cat. Which then the rescue would take care of all of his needs until his needs don't need taking care of anymore, and he would just have a soft spot to land here. I think I'm supposed to like go in. I don't know why I jumped overboard. Whiskers wouldn't look half bad on you either as a bonus. I'm gonna take I collect all the cat's whiskers that I find, so like there's a little box in just about every room. Like there's a box of the boys' whiskers in here. I have so many of Voya's whiskers. I'm just gonna glue them all to my face one day and log on stream and see how long it takes anyone to notice. That's not the path I'm searching for. A little sus. What are we doing here? Why is the direction always in the mountain? How do you want me to go in the mountain? I feel like this is entirely the wrong way. Start digging. Get some dynamite and blow a hole through. Dynamite. Oh. Probably no, but it looks like something. No. Or nuh-uh. I think that just reversed progress. Did I find it? No, I'm next to it. How do I get into it? Need to get into it, TurboTax. Come on now. Let me through. Me through. Oh, you're not gonna let me jump up back that way. You stinker. Stinker. Bloop. Oops. Tuck and roll. Oh god. Am I stuck in the moat? Oh no. Oh no. Alright, fuck it. We're going to the cantina. Just kidding. Kind of. There is a road to this. Let's follow the road instead of just looking at like, oh, that looks pink on the screen. Road. Scrippers! I'm no fun now. I'm not taking us to the cantina. I am gonna heat up my coffee while we're in a safe spot real quick. Burp, 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 burp. I would like a touch of hot coffee. I'm a bit of an eepy girl tonight. I did the full day of life, and I'm in the wind down sector of it, I believe. I'd like a bit more hot coffee. But all the zoo is taken care of already. All I have to do tonight is sit in with Gigi for a little bit, hang out with Dude for a little bit, give PB night-night smooches, give Lincoln night-night smooches. And we're good to go. Good to go. But I feel like I was the same amount of time today as yesterday to get to stream, which was irritating. But I was on the phone a lot today, like with rescue stuff and communicating back and forth and like giving updates, and I don't know. Being on my phone unexpectedly makes me very distractible. It's like, okay, let's get back to the regular grind. And I redid my calendar today in the same layout of the 24-hour schedule that I put together yesterday. So I was completely shit-fucked on my routine. The routine was entirely brand new today, and I was so lost and confused. I feel like I've forgotten something, and I've checked a million times, and I haven't forgotten anything, but it's disorienting. I need coffee. I need hot coffee. That's what we need. Hot coffee. I mentioned last night too that Dude uses the hot side of the faucet to lean up against with his little soft cone. And I feel like I'm gonna come back home one of these days from work with the sink on, like when Charlie turned the sink on when I wasn't home or something. I don't remember what I was gone for. I think it was a convention day. I could be wrong though. But Charlie turned on the kitchen sink while I was gone. I panicked, called my dad. I'm like, is there anything bad that happens from leaving a sink on? This was months ago. Sometime in the last few months. And no, nothing bad happens if the sink is left on. Your water bill is just higher. I panicked though, that had never happened to me before. Yeah, aside from a massive water bill. It was up about $5 because the faucet was on pretty much from shortly after I left to when I got home. It was a decent amount of time. Where do you want me to go? Up. Green means go. How would you expect me to see that? Say, Bish, you have your glasses on. Oh, it's pretty in here. It's very pretty in here. The map coloring is even like complementary to the environment. In fact, leaving the sink on is good for the sewage line. Oh, well, Charlie was just doing us favors then. She said, Mom, it's time for home maintenance. Vector.
Yes, this is...
Oh my god, he's the guy from Ants.
Wait to see how this goes.
We are Vector Hillis, Dawn Herald of the Ouroboros Nest. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Agent.
You know who I am?
Sounds like you were expecting.
It's awkward.
We received
I've been
a message
perceived.
concerning your mission. We were told we might serve. We trust our appearance doesn't disturb you. Our
No, you just
superiors
look
in
like the
diplomatic
grasshoppers
service
from
found our
Ants.
joining disconcerting, but it was necessary. The joining allowed us to share thoughts and senses with the Nest, forge a bond between empire.
Looks
and
just
city.
like him.
The change is a small price.
Fucking go away. Is that not the same? The Ants Star Wars crossover that no one asked for. That we got anyway. Like, we're running out of sci-fi characters. Let's make him a bug. I don't want to flirt with you. A small price?
Doesn't bother you.
It was unexpected, but now I'm part of the kind. I hear
I
the
feel like
song
he's
of
been
the
indoctrinated
universe.
into a cult, and it was
It's
not
a
Club Cult,
magnificent
and he
thing.
chose the wrong cult.
Yes.
Kind
As to your
of
target,
disconcerting.
Imperial Intelligence provided us with a list of names, dates, and locations connected to your terrorist financier.
What
Do
have you
have an
found
ID on
out?
the target?
We can't identify the financier himself, but your information shows he's visited House Organa, House Ceres, House Pantier, and House Cortez.
It's a lot of
Cortez
houses.
is a vassal of the Empire's
I'm
proxy,
part of the Hive.
House Fool. If you show the Cortez Baron a copy of our findings, he might close
Become
in
one
on
with the
your
Hive.
I
Noted.
appreciate the advice.
We must proceed to the dance of unlighting, but we'll remain here for the duration of your mission. We suggest
Okay.
you present yourself to Cortez as an ally of the Empire. Show strength, and don't mention your intelligence connections.
So I have to remember that. Show strength. Don't mention your intelligence. I'm dumb and strong. I'm malicious, mean, and scary. My sneer could curdle dairy. And violence-wise, my hands are not the cleanest. But despite my evil look, and my temper and my hook, I really want to be a concert pianist. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Cause way down deep inside I've got a dream. That's how I'm gonna remember how I need to be. Strong and dumb. There's a path to this, like, secondary portion. Yes. Kind of. We'll get over there and figure it out. I like how this is like dirt and pavement. It's like they just spread out the dirt and like fancy stamped it. Like how the beach gets swept. I wonder if there's a crew that comes out every morning and stamps the ground down into this pattern. Why is it all the Hook-handed characters end up playing the piano in Disney stuff? Oh, that's a good point. Hook was a piano player as well. Hmm. They took inspiration from him. Oh, now I want to watch Tangled. I'm malicious, mean, and scary. My sneer could curdle dairy. And violence-wise, my hands are not the cleanest. I don't know if you guys can hear the little, like, jingle jingle in the background of the game here, ever so softly along with the game music. But every time I hear it, I think it's a text notification, because that was my text notification years ago. It's still pinging my brain. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. I heard that the other night too. I was like, triggered. hear it. I hear it. But we have to capitalize Hook's name like he's Captain Jack Sparrow. Captain Jack Sparrow. I always loved playing dress up as a kid, but it makes me laugh so much thinking back to when we saw the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and the first thing I wanted to do when I got home was dress up as Captain Jack. And that was like my first cosplay experience without even realizing it. Pirates of the Caribbean started it all. Stuck. Is this your house? House. 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 It's a proper noun, true. In this day and age, we must be proper.
Hold your guard.
It's too far and few between anymore. I don't even capitalize my eyes in text messages. I'm nobility. I'm a mercenary. I'm strong and dumb.
I am one of the free soldiers of the Palladian trade route, come to offer my company's service.
Welcome, William. Have you had any good night so far? First Pirates of the Caribbean movie is really good. The first show of Jack Sparrow is just fantastic. Oh my god, it was.
There's no need to react.
The continuations, I think they went up to 4.
Baroness J. Cortez.
The last one was at World's End, I think.
But these are inhospitable
I don't quite
times.
remember. They did get a little more cheesy and far-fetched over time, but they still held up really good. They did a good job with them.
But not armies for hire.
So let's get
Allow me to
acquainted.
prove that I can be a friend. Perhaps.
Friend in need is a
Some
friend
years ago,
indeed.
We lost a squad of battle droids patrolling the borders of Cortez lands. That squad was our first line of defense. We believe the squad's disappearance may presage an attack.
And more than that, but I don't think Johnny Depp is in all of them. I don't think most of the main cast is in the last one at the very least. The first 3 I've seen multiple times. I don't know about that. I think I only saw the last one once though. Oh, there's another one on the way? Oh, Jack was in all of them. Fifth installment, Dead Men Tell No Tales. I think the last one I saw would have been Stranger Tides. Whichever one, oh, there's a supermodel I really like. Who is in it? Gemma Ward? That would have been the last one that I saw. She was in the On Stranger Tides one. She played the mermaid. Does that mean there's another one coming out? Oh, it's a short prequel to the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And it's been released for a while now. Oh, it's only a 10-minute short film. So that's probably why it's not, like, extremely well known. I never heard of it. That's cool. I want to check that out. He's definitely less prominent towards the end of the series, though. Why is the rum always gone? It was honestly such a great beach scene between the two of them. And then how their character stances completely flipped. Really squad's experience, none of our allies have come to our aid. I'm
That
sorry.
explains a great deal. You have my sympathies, Baroness.
I think I saw 4 of them. The last one you saw was the Fountain of Youth one. That would have been the with the mermaids, I think. Because they were carrying her to the Fountain of Youth for some reason, I think. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
Then my Baron may host guests.
As you
We'll do
wish.
everything possible to make this right.
As
I'll
you
leave you
wish.
to Captain Perovius. I hope to see you under better circumstances.
If your troops find a droid, tell them to activate the squad's homing beacon. Perhaps the data logs will help us.
Just such a good series. Activate the droid homing beacon. Just tell the droids to go home and then see where we're at for time. I find the cycles of life so interesting. Like coming across when I played this years ago to this specific period of time, like the month of all Star Wars things. Isn't today Star Wars Day too because it's the 25th? Didn't you tell me that, Cyogenics? I think. I feel like there's so many things that we repeat seasonally that we don't even realize we do. The body keeps the score. It's the anniversary of the original movie launch. Aww! And look at us on Alderaan over here. The little cuties that we are. Am I going the right way to this? Kind of. Mostly. We're not on any marked roads, Lola. Before Vader exploded it. Whoops. That's like some serious punishment. Like, I had my door taken off, but like, it would have been a lot more traumatic to have my planet blown up by my father. I feel for Leia on that one. I feel like it's way too warm looking out there. Like, there are crops. And then there's snow. Maybe they use it for, like, irrigative runoff. Why does it always go in the mountain? I can't go in the mountain. I don't have any dynamite. Probably like a panel somewhere around here. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Something grows in the snow, surely. It must. Otherwise they wouldn't have planted everything over here. Where do you want me to go? I don't think I'm gonna sneak through here, but we're gonna try. Nope.
Rise and shine.
Not happening. We're doing it for the ants. Fucking grass. Grass looks like noodles. It's awkward. Well, they have bee butts. They're grasshopper looking dudes with bee butts. Okay. That's an interesting one. He has a fire in his laser. Dang. Hey, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the cult. It is whatever you want it to be, baby. It's a choose your own adventure. And thank you for taking the time to be here tonight on this fine of Mondays. Valderina days, apparently. I think I told you guys that the shop is like Harry Potter themed, which is really cool in Kismet. But I've been too ashamed to go, oh, I have a Harry Potter tattoo. I don't want to think that. I don't want to be evil. I feel like I'll either super fit in or like get a red mark on my name. I don't know. Not worried about having tattoos in general because everyone else does. But specifically the Harry Potter one that I have. It's so cute though. All the grooming packages are like Harry Potter themed and like it's adorable. It's adorable. That's what I plan on saying. Because I was at the vet. Well, I'm at the vet all the time. But I was at the vet once years ago. And there was a little girl and her mom and their dog sitting next to me in the waiting room. And she saw my tattoo and she goes, "You're a Death Eater?" And we had a little talk about it. And I made the claim that I am indeed reformed. I realized Voldemort wasn't such a good guy. And I'm on the good path now. We had a little conversation about it. It was quite adorable, actually. Like, she was more curious than, like, freaked out. But she knew. It was an if you know, you know situation. Well, there's probably a broken droid that we need to do something with. That's the same logic I'm going to go through when it gets discovered. And I'm reformed. I realized Voldemort wasn't such a good guy and, switch sides. Welcome, Smear. Hope you're having a good night so far. Death Eaters are the bad guys in Harry Potter. Voldemort's followers. What? You're a larva. What are you running in here all young and dumb for? Buddy. Kids are hilarious. They ask the most blunt questions. They just have, like, no sense. I love it. It's like if dogs could talk. When they get to teenage years, that's where it's like if cats can talk. Am I targeting anything? No, I'm just hitting buttons for no reason. A grounder? Is he going to ground me? Where are we going from here? Use your personal holocom. So I have to figure out how to get back to my ship. Again? Oh, personal, not ship. Personal. What is our question?
This is Captain Perovius. It's good to
What
see
is your ask me anything,
I'm
sir?
impressed that you conducted the search personally. We're receiving the droid's logs now. You have my thanks.
Bye is not a question. But I hope the rest of your night goes well. You have my thanks?
No,
Don't
thank
worry about it.
It was my privilege.
The eternal quest of dude, where's my ship?
You saved lives today. At any rate, these logs...
We gotta figure out how to play this with
The
Doodle.
droid skirmish with the Killix. Blasted bugs are on Cortez lands again.
I've seen them.
I ran into a few more on my way here.
Figures as much. Rumor has it that the Killic nest is growing.
Rumor has it, ooh, ooh, rumor has it. I haven't thought of that song in so long.
Those things won't build a new hive in Cortez territory.
Played repeatedly on the radio. Look, I can be a goofy goober. Can I visit your house? Can I visit your house? Can I visit your house? Undoubtedly.
I'm sure the Killings will get
Indubitably.
your message.
Undoubtedly.
In the meantime, I have a message for you. The Baroness is offering you an invitation to the estate. You may return at your
Oh.
leisure.
Do I need a fancy dress? Or are my jacket coattails enough? Jingle in the background is getting me. Gotta get out of this land. No! Stop it. I was sneaking. I was being a sneaky sneaker. Let a girl do what makes her happy. Okay. I'm so confused. The grasshopper boys with bee butts. How does that happen like that? Pew pew pew. Pew pew pew. Ew, they make glurpy sounds. William. Plot twist. I am your father. You're not my dad. I think that was a Vine, and my nephew was like obsessed with it and was quoting it on repeat for a while. Like it just ticked into his brain or something. And I remember him saying it over and over again when we were at Target together one day. And I'm like, damn right I'm not. Finally, because I got sick of hearing it. Damn right I'm not. Damn right I shot first. No, but yes. The Vines era really didn't last long, but they had such an impact. That is true. And I mean, some are lost with the sands of time, which I think increases the nostalgia for it. But the ones that you can still, like, there's so many Vine compilations on YouTube and whatnot. The ones you can still find and get into. I'm guessing we go down. I don't know. Big jump. Big jump. Big jump. Big jump. It's a very interestingly well archived piece of early present internet. They were so presumptuous to think they could survive without ads on their platform. Yeah. Wasn't Vine linked with Twitter for a while though? Or were they just posted all over Twitter? Or no, it was Periscope that was linked with Twitter. Never mind. I'm just in time to say goodnight soon, Midnight Dynamite. I hope the day has been kind to you. I'm going to get to our Countess's invitation. House Cortez. And then we get some eeps. This dude has an intake appointment tomorrow. Get him his shots. Do blood work. Get his cheeks more checked out. Been expecting me. Hopefully get his neuter scheduled depending on his level of healing.
Sword of the Castle Lands, I hereby present to you an honorable friend and a soldier of fortune. This woman risked herself in the service of House Cortez.
Why are they talking about me?
Recovering our lost patrol and identifying the Killick threat. In appreciation of her noble
appreciation.
And out of respect for her accomplishments.
Start saying that. I appreciate you, Club Cult.
I so grant her recognition.
That's right. Recognize.
Welcome to my home.
Oh, I think I read Cortez's Countess earlier. Thank
Pleasure is
you.
mine, Baron.
Then we are both fortunate.
I hope I didn't give the wrong impression at the gates. I just take the security of my house very seriously.
One of few things she does, along with her gardens and her act dogs.
Don't make me blush, my lord.
So I'm gonna start calling Ringo Diesel and Tigra act dogs.
Is there a favor you would ask? An alliance?
Pippi's a porg, so she's already categorized. Check this. I don't know.
This data describes someone who interests me.
Let's go with that.
Take a look.
Leia butt, lazy butt, same diff.
I don't know what I'm looking for, but very well. Ah, I see. A visitor to my house. I believe the guest you're looking for is Master Denry Ale. We've hosted him and his summits on a number of occasions.
Summits?
Let's hear some more.
Denry Ale was once Lord Denry Ale, a powerful and respected man among the vassal houses. But some years ago, he abdicated his position.
He met a girl.
Mediator dedicated to forging
Just
peace.
kidding.
Strange you should ask about him now.
He met a commoner.
For several weeks, Denry Ale has been missing. Whether off on some secret negotiation,
we have to find
something
him.
more regrettable,
Oh no.
no
Oh
one
no.
knows.
We can't let him disappear. It would be unfortunate.
It doesn't sound like
Well,
she
we
thinks
can
it would
look
be
into his
unfortunate.
whereabouts through formal and informal diplomatic channels. If I can find him for you, I will. You may also wish to investigate the matter yourself. I'm sure a mercenary of your caliber has sources.
I appreciate
Thank
your efforts,
you.
Baron.
In the meantime, you're welcome to stay as a guest. House Cortez prides itself on its hospitality.
Alright, vacation
We'll have to
time.
dine together. You can meet the Ark Dogs.
The Baron has spoken. This audience is at an end.
We actually having a dinner party? That would be cute. Perhaps not, though. Return to Vector. I want to find a spot in the storyline that makes sense to pick back up on. Pop over back by him. And that should be okay. Don't trust soul patch wearers as a rule. What about Guy Fieri the cat, though? I feel like he's the exception to the rule. He's been back by again a few times for munchies. RNG has been coming around like crazy. As soon as I'm settled, stable again, I want to get him TNR'd ASAP. Though when I trap him, if he's not too snarky, I want to try scanning him for a chip because he looks just like my neighbor's cat who goes outside. And I'll have to take a picture and text my neighbor and ask if the cat is indoors or not that night. Cats are exempt. Good. I have like a whole list of silly names when I put food out now. Because I let everything like jingle into the bowl. So it's loud Kibble sounds. And then I say, Jimbo Bear, RNG, Naked Butt, Guy Fieri, formerly known as Almost Gunther. We got some Kibblies. So that they know that there's food there. Because, you know, they can totally hear me from miles away. Probably the jingle of the food, though, at least through a couple of blocks. Not that it jingles, but the sound of the food hitting the bowl. He's so damn cute. I wish he would have been okay with not being a community cat. If I took months and months and months and months and months and months and months to socialize him, we could have done it, but that was just simply not realistic at the time. The zoo always has to come first. And getting him neutered and up to date on shots and health checked and treated for worms, fleas, etc. was the best we could do, and honestly more than enough. I think I'll always have a little bit of regrets just because of the person that I am. But I'm very proud of what we did, Club Gold. We did good stuff. We made sure he was all taken care of. Now he's not going to be making no more babies or fighting all the other boys. Bugging on the girls. He's just a chill guy. Not sure it would be worse, being called Naked Butt or being a cat with a naked butt. I think Naked Butt has a flea allergy. Because that's how Gigi looked when she came in. I thought she was all naked from rubbing up on the trap.
Welcome back.
Because she was in there for like 48 hours.
To the great song.
But it was a flea allergy. She only has a little naked patch at the base of her tail now. Your aura reflects your attunement to the great song. What are you guys on? Always a pleasure.
Good to see you again, too.
Our observers saw you enter the Cortez estate. The Fingerlings were
I can't tell if Naked Butt is like a light-colored tabby or a dark-colored orange cat, though.
With his wealth and talent, he could be your target.
Just whatever I noticed first about the cat. Like, bear looks bearish. RNG is orange. Naked Butt has a naked butt. Guy Fieri looks like Gunther, so he was almost Gunther. Like, whatever I think of first is their first stupid name that they get. And then I don't horribly fall in love with them. Never should have called Guy Fieri Guy Fieri. Should have kept calling him almost Gunther. It was funny when he was in here. Like, Big Gunther, Little Gunther. Big Gunther, Little Gunther. It's like having a junior and a senior in the house. Oh, he could be your target. He's also missing.
The Baron claims not to know his whereabouts.
Excuse me.
We might be able to help. Our nest has had many joiners over the years. So
You seem concerningly all-knowing.
We can search their memories and see what they know of Denry Ale.
Naked Butt can't help that they got a naked butt. I don't want to be rude, but like, get to it. Yeah, let's see what you come up with.
When her speeder crashed, our foragers...
The subtitles for him were funny.
Our healers tended her. We became one. Her house... an old house of scholars and antiquarians, granted Ale residence in honor of his work as a mediator. Ale kept records of his work in the older estate. If you can penetrate the
They
estate's
forgot a letter there.
defenses,
An
those
Aldi?
records are
Alder?
yours.
You have to penetrate the estate's defenses. Okay.
Good work. I'll have those records in no time.
It's our mission for next time, Club Cult. Penetration.
A warning. House Alder opposes the Empire, and the estate is always prepared for an Imperial attack, even a stealthy one. Be careful.
Drink some polyjuice potion and be a shapeshifter. So next time on Serena TV, we'll access Denry Ale's records. Vector suggests you infiltrate Ale's record room in the house. Excuse me. Alder, and download any information you find. Okay. Hublarg. Good night, game. You're good to us tonight. That room was so pretty. They really simplified this, but I like how it looked in the picture I posted from years ago. It was his words, not mine. Our goal is penetration. Stealthy penetration, if you will. Is that like when you wake someone up? Like, are you awake? Are you awake? You got a boner? I am a tired lady. It is bedtime. It is the bed of the bedtime. Welcome to Mad Topher. Here, just in time to be confused and to say goodnight. Our next mission, next stream, is penetration. We must penetrate a building of information. Yes, with consent. Well, this may not be consensual, but in most other penetrative practices, it is best practice to use consent, of course. I'm a late short stream girly tonight. No work today, but my day ended up going a little bit long. So I was late, and I gotta be scamooched out early so that I can get dude to his intake appointment in the morning. But a little blip of Serena tonight. Do you have to mail you signed consent forms? Oh God! Don't even send me down that mental spiral of consent forms and all of that right now. It is so like convoluted with the current ecosystem of adult content at the time. It's quite goofy. I can't just go off of the old consent forms that you used to use back in the day. Now you need a picture of not just someone's ID, but them holding the ID of their face. Most sites require their own individual verification for other performers, etc. It's such a mess. Been trying to repost some of my old content, and some of it I just literally cannot repost because I either don't have access to that person anymore, which is for a better reason than not, or there's no way to get the proper paperwork filled out anymore. It's a bummer. That's completely like a side project though. It's quite the side project. I was just gonna jokingly say that you have to include Polaroids holding up your ID, etc. But now that I think about it, I think I want to bring my Polaroid printer with to work with me. One, my phone is full and I don't want to take up more space, but it would be really, really nice to have a list of all clients and what the preference of what they would look like would be, so I can just easily pin on, like, to their card a picture versus going back through my phone. And even if I made a separate album of all the dogs, I like photo references. Like, instructions are good, but photo references are better because then I can fine-tune every single little detail. Maybe I'll start bringing my Polaroid printer with me. That would not be a bad idea. Maybe parents would like a copy too. If Pippi was getting groomed all fancy, I would love a Polaroid picture of her. That'd be cute. That'd be quite adorable. That just went many different directions, but I think that would be a good idea. Where did I put my printer after conventioning? Can't really call it traveling. Did I put it away, like where it goes? Hey, Zekers and Gunthers. Are you ready for snugglies? No. Yes. Okay. I'll leave this out so I think about it. And I have what? 1.5 packs of Polaroids, which means I have 30 Polaroids. It did move a bit, but I put it back into a convenient to remember spot. I was only off by 1 drawer. I'm very proud. Very proud. Oh, this hand wants to pop. My hands are swollen today. I don't know why. I don't think I've been hydrated enough today. I drank the normal amount that I usually drink, but I can see it in my face and I can feel it in my hands. I don't feel that hydrated. Polaroids. Where's the one I took of you guys? Here's a Voya. Here's the one I took of you guys. Club Cult 26. You fancy schmancy little biscuits. I love Polaroids. They're fun. They're very, very fun. My grandpa was like baffled by the Polaroid printer. Oh, where are they? I think they're in the kitchen. Because it just prints pictures off of your phone. And he was both fascinated by it, but like scoffing at it also in the way of like, oh, it's, you know, it could be, it's not how it's supposed to be. It's not like how it was in the good old days. I think I have the one with me and my grandpa in the kitchen. No, Pippi. Oh, this is so dusty. I need to wipe this off. It's so dusty. There's one that I did with my grandpa over there's, and then over here too. This was just a little board that I made for his funeral that I kept. Where's my favorite picture ever? There. That's my favorite picture of my grandpa ever. He's sticking his tongue out at us. It was the first year that I had my own little, like, not just disposable camera, but I got a little camera for, I think, my birthday or Christmas. Maybe Easter. At some point, like, that year, whatever. And I was like, Grandpa, let me take a picture of you. And he just goes... And I don't think there's any other silly pictures in any of our albums where that one exists. And in this picture, my dad is drunk because he's smiling. Everyone else is just looking over, like, straight-faced, because that's what my family does. But my dad's smiling and cheesing really big. He's drunk. And his girlfriend looks annoyed, which definitely means he was drunk. I've seen my dad never, like, drunk, but a little bit more drinky than usual, like twice in my life. But we took these, and he was just like, how are they going to print? Where do they come out of the camera? Because I'm taking them on my phone with a tripod, and then they come out of the little dinky printer, and he's like, that's really cool, but that's not right. You could just buy the camera. Oh, Gunther, we're gonna snuggle soon. Do you want a little bit of lap time first, though? I'll pull you up for some pre-eeps. You guys did take a good picture. I love it. It's one of my favorites. It's going in the 2026 scrapbook. I have my grandpa's Polaroid camera, but I don't know how to use it. It probably needs to be serviced. It needs film. Probably needs to be cleaned internally. I have no idea how it works. The old Polaroid cameras are so iconic to the past of early easy photography. This is so true. I love how it's still relevant today, even though it's in like a sillier, more simple format. Well, both more and less simple. You get better quality pictures, but you have to shoot it on your phone and then send it over. Or there's like the little Instax cameras. But mine doesn't work anymore. I'd venture to guess that needs to be cleaned internally too. Or it just got old and maybe wasn't made great. I don't know. But you blinked in that one, but that's okay. You still look nice. I blink in my own selfies sometimes, so I don't blame you. Like, I'll be taking a picture for stream, whatever I'm doing, and I'll just blink mid-picture. Just going for selfie mode, and I blink. I blink in my own pictures, so I don't blame you for it. You're just trying to be extra relatable by blinking. Do you guys blink in your own pictures? Like when you take if I take like 3 selfies, I'm blinking in at least one of them. This is my pondering for the evening before I go off to sleep. So that I'm not up all night thinking about if I'm the only one in the world that blinks in their own pictures. Gunther says, hello everybody. Hello everybody. Heard the Chainsmokers selfie song yesterday. I had to laugh. Oh, is that the... I never knew who that song was by. Is that the let me take a selfie? Oh my god, is it? I don't know how to search for things on Spotify. It is a Chainsmokers song. No way. Here for it. I never knew what it was called or who it was by. I just thought of it as the dumb white girl song. Taking selfies or you forgot to smile because you're making sure everyone is in the shot. Oh, I've done that too. You're observing, then just straight face. Everyone else is happy and then serious. Let me take a selfie. I haven't heard this in so long. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. There's so many remixes of it too. Let me take a selfie. That's not what I'm looking for there. They make Spotify big. All these remixes. It's the original instrumental mix. Let me take a blinking selfie. We could make our own remix from just the instrumental. What's the Botneck remix? Dimmock. So that's... Dimmock is Steve Aoki's brand. If I'm saying his name correctly. I don't think I am. So that would be by him by association in some way? He must have produced it even if he didn't actually create it. Because Dimmock is his clothing brand too. It's nice and smooth. There's no instrumentals to this one though. Or was there? No. That's the Serena remix. Good song. Good song. I don't know how to Spotify. Where's the home button? Oh no. I don't know how to do this on big screen. Home. Okay. That pleases my soul a bit more. Alright, Club Cult. We're gonna hit the hay for the night. Turn off the monitor, not my camera. Get Dude in tomorrow. I think I'm gonna call tomorrow and switch Marbles' appointment from Wednesday to Friday. I'm gonna miss you guys on Friday because I want to be up absolutely perfectly on time for Saturday. Depending on how busy Saturday is, I may or may not be on Saturday night. Probably Sunday night, unless I'm just fucking straight up exhausted, because I'll be off on Monday. And then we'll see where the rest of the week takes us next week. But knock on wood, I would hope to expect for some games night tomorrow. And then it's Serena Day. And then it's Thursday. I think Lincoln goes back on Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember which. He goes to his new mommy and daddy. But Friday, I think I will try to switch Marbles' appointment to. Not just for the convenience of, like, not stream time, but so that we get a good full day together. Because I was looking at the calendar earlier, and I'm like, this is, like, it's too much. It's too much all smushed together for me to feel like I'm giving her the most, you know? Aw, thank you, Cygenix. Wishing the best eeps to all. We had a good report from Dude. I want a good report from him, too. I'm crossing fingers and paws that he is as healthy as can be. I really hope. That's the goal, is to not run myself ragged. I like to believe that I can do all the things, but realistically, that is just not true. We'll get into a flow as we go. I interrupted myself last night, and I completely forgot my train of thought, and it came back to me when I was trying to fall asleep this morning. And it was more or less along the lines of, whatever days we can stream will mostly depend on probably the volume of dogs. So if we have a big full day to where, or dogs and cats I should say. If we have a big full day where like the last client is at 4:30, then I'll probably be pretty zonked by the time I get back home and I'm feeding the zoo. But if we have an earlier day, like last dog is at 2 or something like that, then out of there by 4, and it should be easy peasy lemon squeezy to be able to bop on stream. So we'll still have a schedule, like of certain days. It'll just be sporadic, I suppose. My day off will probably switch to Monday. Maybe for the next couple of weeks while settling in, I'll still take Wednesdays as well, just so I have a personal settling day. But we'll see. I don't know what my needs will be until we get into the whole thing, so we shall see. That's the best plan ever. We shall see, right? It's when the thoughts come rushing back seconds before sleep takes hold. That really is when it was. My head hit the pillow, and I'm like, oh yeah, earlier. That's what I was saying. Like, okay, thanks for not remembering when it's relevant. Appreciate that about yourself, Serena. I'm looking forward to spending lots of days with the doggos and cattos, though. Not that I don't do that at home anyway, but... Oh, oopsies! That was so bad, but so funny. The bin with the masks Gunther likes to lay on. But when I put the cat mask back, I didn't put the lid on it fully properly. And Gunther just jumped down onto it and then ate shit. Because he missed. and it tumbled. I'm so sorry. He's just like, what happened? I'm so sorry, baby G. Here, mommy fix. Mommy fix. All better. All better. All better. Yeah, good recovery. Yeah, that is very like, I did that on purpose. Don't pay no mind to it, Mom. It was very cute. It was very, very cute. All in all, it'll be a little bit of an adjustment period for all of this, but I'm just going to keep the schedule for what I plan for, or what I would ideally like to have, and then I'll update Discord. Probably mostly Discord, because that's just easiest. Maybe socials too, in terms of whether it's an EP night or a streamy night. But the bonus of EP nights is you guys get to keep throwing movies and shows at me. I think I'm on the last 2 episodes of Raising Hope, so I may be starting Maul perhaps before bed, if not tomorrow, which I am excited for. I'm excited for some fiction fantasy, not just family sitcom. Mwahahaha. Thank you all for a wonderful night, Club Cult. Thank you for not laughing too hard at Gunther eating shit. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your chats. Thank you for your company. And thank you for your support. I appreciate you all immensely. And thank you more than anything for your time. Your time is very valuable. And whether it's for 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 hours, if I don't see you again for 2 years, when our times collide, it is beautiful, magical, amazing, and incredible. Your time is not free. And it is very valuable. Okay? Okay. You can make more money, you can make more friends, you can make more... I was going to go with the crochet hook, but... make more fans. Sometimes you can even make even more fans. That's backwards. I don't know how to do that left-handed. Sometimes you can make double the fans. You cannot make more time. So thank you for yours. I'm blown away. Whoosh. This one is actually quite powerful. It's much bigger than the other one, though. I guess size matters with fans. It's one of the few moments that it does factor in decently. But all that being said, cannot make more time. And thank you for yours. I'm a very, very, very grateful girly. Serena spam incoming. If you guys would like to keep up with me offline, hop into the Disky Boo. There you get the integral knowledge of, will she exist or is she covered in dog hair and crawling into bed? Here's the fun stuff. The socials. Some more fun stuff. If I can even type it out. The sketch for roughly-ish when I will see you babes next. And thank you all for being a part of the stream, The Dreams Project. Shall report back on Dude's continuation of it tomorrow. And thank you all also very much for your help with Voya's care costs. I'm a very, very, very grateful girly. And I appreciate it very much. It means the world to me. Immensely and intensely. My shoulders still feel tight. This hurts more today. I didn't take out the Hitachi thing last night. I shouldn't say it hurts more, but it's noticeably tighter. I think I am gonna whip that out before bed tonight. I neglected it last night. I was like, oh, it'll feel better tomorrow. I don't need to mess with it. I think I need to mess with it tonight. Whoops. Whoops. Do me one favor until I see you babes next, and that is, remember that you are wonderful, amazing, kind, spectacular, fantastic, phenomenal, boop, all of the good things in the world, and oh so gorgeous. Take all of those compliments and put them in your back pocket, your side pocket, your cute little hoodie pocket, your adorable little shirt pocket, floating in suspended animation, or wherever it needs to go until I see you next, you sweet bubbos. Have a beautiful rest of your night. Thank you for chilling for a little quickie sesh. It was a good quickie. I had fun. I appreciate you all very much. Get some good eats tonight. Get some good eats. Make good choices. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, except for maybe leaving the house, but I wouldn't recommend that at night either. Vampires, you know? Oh god, I'm tired. I'm like off in every direction right now. Club Cult, you are wonderful. Thank you for a marvelous evening together. Thank you for a Monday fun day. And I shall see you, Bebs, for the next one. Get some good eeps and enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you all for being here.